Hi guys, welcome back to the Spurred On Podcast. I've taken a few days off doing these videos because let's face it, it's been a slow news week. After that defeat to Wolverhampton Wanderers a couple of Saturdays ago, I think I can tell from all of the Spurs fan base trying to look to see what people are writing on social media and just talking to friends who are Spurs fans, there's just a bit of a depression. And I think that depression probably comes from the fact that we had such high expectations, and I'm definitely guilty of that. I genuinely have been saying, I think for the last 2 months, wait till it gets back to kind of January, end of January, beginning of February, when we get all of our players back, all of our suspended players back, the players from AFCON, Sonny from the Asian Cup. I really felt strongly that the first time we had those options, we would then just power back into that kind of first 10 games form. And Wolves would have been that opportunity. But then, of course, Destiny Udogie and Pedro Porro got injured, and that meant we weren't able to play with that kind of very stable first 11 that we had in those first 10 games. And I'm not going to say as a result we lost. There are other reasons we lost too, but that definitely didn't help us. So I took a few days off doing these videos, gave everybody a break, and now I'm back thinking a lot more positively, forward thinking coming into this Saturday game against Crystal Palace. But, of course, in what... we're all biased. We all feel like, to some degree, everything's against us. But it certainly is no surprise to me that Crystal Palace are now on a bit of a kind of positive upward streak in terms of momentum and how their fans are feeling about their club, because Roy Hodgson left, be that for health reasons or because he was gently pushed out of the door by Steve Parish, their chairman, who's been under a lot of pressure. And they have, of course, replaced him with Oliver Glasner, the former Eintracht Frankfurt manager, who did unbelievably well in Europe with that team and now is willing and happy and desires success in the Premier League. So he's gone to Selhurst Park, and they got a win at the weekend, and they will come to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium with new tactics, new belief, momentum, and they're going to make it difficult for us. I saw straight away he brought in a three at the back system for Crystal Palace, and I would not be surprised if they play in a very similar way to what we have been struggling against, that kind of within the 18-yard box, kind of narrow defensive system, 11 men behind the ball at all times, and then trying to break with pace. So it'll be up to Tottenham Hotspur. Can we find a way around it better than we have been doing recently? And that's why I think maybe it's quite a good thing that Ange has had 2 weeks with the players on the training ground to kind of really, I don't know, get those players back, firstly, kind of properly match fit, by which I mean like Bentancur, Maddison. They've come back from injuries very quickly, and let's face it, they've not been at their best. So maybe a couple of weeks on the training ground will help with that kind of base level of fitness. I said match fitness, I mean kind of base level of fitness. And then also hopefully Ange just drummed into them ways of getting in round the back of these deep blocks, and hopefully just having some more shots at goal as well, getting more crosses in, especially if we're playing Richarlison in the number 9. I want to see Decky Kulusevski getting more crosses in and Sonny cutting in on his right and getting more crosses in, because maybe those crosses won't lead to goals, but they'll lead to defenders clearing it to the outside the 18-yard box and shot opportunities, and potentially even corners that we can then try and score from. And then talking about set pieces and corners, hopefully Jedinak, the defensive set piece coach at Spurs this season, is really basically hopefully trying to change what he's been suggesting they do all season, because it's not been good enough getting kind of our heads on the first ball. We've been conceding too many chances, and if it weren't for Vicario, I think we'd be really, really struggling, because he's made so many great saves from set-piece chances that the opposition have had. Anyway, that is kind of just my overall feeling on Tuesday coming into this Saturday against Crystal Palace. I want to talk about some Spurs news for the rest of this episode, and then tomorrow I'm going to do another transfer update. There are actually quite a few rumours over the last few days about players that Spurs are looking to get in, so I'm going to do a proper transfer update on them tomorrow. But first up, I'm sure you've all seen, but if you haven't, definitely go and check it out. Lucas Bergvall, the player who's coming in from Djurgårdens in Sweden to Spurs in the summer, the next wonder kid on the block. He had an unbelievable performance at the weekend, scored twice, 1 assist, 1 goal that he basically ran through the entire defence from his own half, and then used a bit of skill at the end. I would say, yes, he looks an amazing talent, but do watch this performance of his. You can find it across all of the usual Tottenham social media platforms. But a little caveat, some of the defending in the Swedish league does not look that great. However, he does look an incredibly confident player. I said it when we first signed him, really reminds me of Luka Modric, but a taller version in midfield, in that he's just so brave on the ball, willing to ghost past the player, willing to take it in tight spaces. Really like the look of him. And the Swedish pundit, Peter Backer, said he reminds me a little bit of a young Zlatan Ibrahimovic. And I think he particularly means when he gets into the box and he has a chance to score, he doesn't necessarily always just hit it. In this example where he scored the goal from his own half, he got past the final defender and the keeper fronts him up and he just rolled his studs over the ball to get it past the keeper and slot it into an empty net. And Bakker said that reminded him of a young Zlatan. I, for one, am very happy to have players at the club who remind Swedish pundits of Zlatan Ibrahimovic. So long may that great form for Lucas Bergvall continue, and hopefully he'll come to Spurs in the summer, which actually will be kind of mid-season for him because the Swedish season runs in different times, and hopefully he'll settle into pre-season quickly and give Ange Postecoglou something to think about in terms of, is he good enough to start in the first team? As we've seen with Ange and the way he's treated Destiny Udogie, for instance, if they are good enough, then the age doesn't really matter. So it'll be interesting to see. But if you haven't, like I said, do check out those Lucas Bergvall clips. Next up, obviously I have to talk about Ryan Sessegnon. Very, very unfortunate for him. Came back into an under-21 game after his last injury, which was a hamstring injury, and after only 30 minutes of this under-21 game, suffers a separate hamstring injury on his other leg. 3 months out, surgery, and he's released an online statement. If you haven't seen it, go and check it out. It's really emotive, actually. Ryan Sessegnon is a very, very talented player. When we signed him in 2019, he was one of the greatest English wonder kids about. He'd done so well at Fulham, so direct, so attacking, so pacey. And he's just been unbelievably unfortunate in terms of his injury record in his times at Spurs in the kind of 4 years he's been here. And he just doesn't trust his body, and his body doesn't give him anything to trust about it, really, just continually breaking down. And I think more importantly, though, in this statement that he released, he talked about how he reads what people write about him online. And it's just disgraceful that there is a corner of the Spurs community, mostly I would say on X, but certainly on social media, who are abusing a player for being injured. It's not like it's suggesting that he wants to be injured, he wants to break down, he wants to have terrible injuries that lead him to have surgeries over and over again. It's completely ridiculous, and it's embarrassing, frankly. And you know, I always try and look at these people as kind of basically not real people who just sit in their bedrooms, would never say anything to anybody's face of that ilk, and then just try and write things on Twitter just to get reactions. And the more kind of negative things they write, the more people respond, and that gives them their little endorphin buzz. It's pathetic, their little dopamine rush. It's completely pathetic. And it's sad to me that Ryan Sessegnon has felt so strongly about it that he's had to say something about it. That just shows how these things do affect even these elite athletes. Very upsetting. Anyway, best of kind of wishes to Ryan Sessegnon. He is a talent. But it's going to take him to really believe in his body before we ever see it at Spurs. And with his contract probably up in the next 18 months, I do fear that we won't, but I would love to. I would love to see Ange get some time with him on the training ground and teach him that inverted left-back role. Or maybe even say to him, you know, maybe you could play as the left-sided forward or the right-sided forward and use your pace. I'd love to see it. It's just, it seems unlikely. Chelsea obviously lost the League Cup final to Liverpool on Sunday under Pochettino. I thought it was worth asking, actually, whether Chelsea are now kind of taking over Spurs as the team that the media like to paint as the biggest bottlers around. Obviously, for years now, all of the media and the pundits have liked to talk about Tottenham Hotspur as the ones who grabbed defeat from the jaws of victory. And now there seems to be a bit of a backlash against Chelsea. That's the 6th cup final they've lost in a row. And Gary Neville obviously called them the £1 billion blue bottlers. And it seems to me like the media are picking up on that. So I thought it worth mentioning, just on the fact that I'd be very happy for one of our biggest rivals to take over that kind of media darling of the bottle job role. I thought it was very interesting, so worth mentioning. Manor Solomon is back in training, as is Destiny Udogie, apparently. He is going to be fit for the game against Palace, which is huge news for us. I've got no words yet on Pedro Porro, but would love it, obviously, if we could get Porro and Destiny fit for that game. I think that will give us far more of an attacking threat. Football Insider claimed that Tottenham are opening talks with Son Heung-min about a new contract. This would be music to my ears. I think we should sign him up, make him an ambassador after he retires, make him a coach, anything he wants. He's the face of the club now. He's our best finisher. He's our best number 9. He's our best left winger. Let's keep him at the club as long as we can. He keeps himself fit. He's not a social life type of person. I don't think he's been drinking a lot during his career. So he's 31 now. I could see him playing till he's 36, 37. Keep him at the club. So let's hopefully see that we sign him up to a new contract. Apparently he's on £190,000 a week now. Give him whatever he wants. Get him up to that £200,000 a week mark that Harry Kane and Hugo Lloris used to be on. We have been nominated for 9 London Football Awards, including Big Ange Postecoglou as Manager of the Year, Pedro Porro and Vicario as Player of the Year nominations. Vicario has been nominated for Goalkeeper of the Year, and Pedro Porro has been nominated for Goal of the Season, which was the screamer into the top left-hand corner against Burnley in the FA Cup. And Pat Matassar and Destiny Udogie have both been nominated for the Young Player of the Season. Now, Mike, let me know what you think in the comments. My hunch is we won't win a lot of those, but I could see maybe Destiny Udogie getting Young Player of the Season. That's a possibility. Let me know what you think. There have also been 2 nominations for our women's team and 1 nomination for the Tottenham Foundation. Guys, thank you so much for watching and listening. Please do press subscribe and give it a like if you're on YouTube. And go over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, press subscribe or follow. And if you want to be a member, a Spurred On Pro member or a Patreon member, it's only £1 a month, and all the details are in the description boxes. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Come on, you Spurs.